In this video, I'm going to show you the common errors in Google Sheets. These are some of the errors that you may come across as you do the work in Google Sheets. And if you come across them, what do they exactly mean? How do we correct them? That's the most important thing. If at all we can correct them. There are some which may not be able to correct, but if at all we can be able to correct them, how do we correct them? The first error that I'm going to show you is this one here, the n%div stroke 0 error. Now, this error happens in most of the cases when you divide a number by 0. So, for example, if I have a data set here which has total cost and quantity, I'm trying to find the unit cost by getting the total cost divided by the quantity. If I copy this down, you'll observe that I get a div error. And when you hover over it, function division parameter 2 cannot be 0, meaning that the second parameter that we are using here, which is in our case B5, which is 0, it cannot be 0. So when you see this, you know that you're dividing a number by 0. And if you have forgotten to input the quantity, that's why we're getting this error. So what you do, you come and put the right quantity and the error goes away. So in case also, if at all you want to ignore such an error, there's another Google Sheet function which is called if error. In other words, you're telling Google Sheet that if I have an error, or I return maybe an empty space or any message or whatever you want, you can also do that. And when you copy this down, you see to an empty space. So in this case, you don't want to show the error. You want to ignore the error. This is the way you can handle it. That is our error number 1. Error number 2 is a value error. Now, this value error occurs if you use a wrong data type. For example, I'm trying to get the multiplication of these two numbers. 40 times 5, it is 200. However, if one of these data types, if it is multiplication works best when they're numbers, but if at all one of these is a string, is not a number, then the multiplication will not occur. And in that case, we're going to get a value error. For example, if I type a letter A in B17, you can see our value error comes in handy. So the value error means that the data type is not allowed in the formula that you are using. For example, this is text, and text cannot be multiplied in Google Sheets. If you try to do that, you're going to get a value error as shown here. Error number 3. Error number 3 is a reference error. The word reference means that there's a problem with the references. That's why it's bringing a reference error. So let's see, assuming I want to reproduce such an error, I'm getting the sum of all these digits. Now I want to sum 5 and 8, the first two, but in the process I drag down and I include cell E32. So my total is in E32, and I'm also adding E32. When I enter like so, it gives me a reference error, meaning that the reference I'm using is not right, because I want to add these two. I cannot include the total. This is a circular dependence detected. To resolve it, it's giving you some options there, but if at all you want to add two figures, you just need to correct it. So what this error tells us that our references we have used, the range that we have picked has an issue. I can show you another example. I come and add these two numbers and I end up with 13. Now, after I've got 13, someone else comes and says, I don't need this row. and I delete that row. The moment you delete that row, now it is trying to add and get a figure in a reference that has been deleted. And because it does not find that figure in that reference, it returns a reference error. As moment as you see the reference error, know that your references you're using in the formula have an issue. So you need to go back and check them out and correct them, and then everything will be fine. Error number 4. Error number 4 is a name error. Now, what this one means is that the name of the function you are using has an error, either it has been wrongly spelled or there is something. So assuming I have these two figures and my interest is getting a sum of these two. So when I do the sum, you can see I get 54, which is right. However, instead of typing the word sum, if I make a mistake and add there an M right there, and the moment you do that, you'll normally see a red line formula there, underlining your formula. So when I press enter, you're gonna see that I get a name error. So the name error, if you see the word name, just know that the spelling of the formula is wrong. That's one of the possibilities. So you need to go back, instead of writing sum with double M, correct it to a single sum, and your total will be fine. So that is error number 4. Let's move on to the num error. So the num error, this one occurs when Google Sheets tries to calculate a result, but because of some limitation or because it is impossible to calculate, it returns a num error. So an example of this is if I use the square root function, and when you look here, as I was typing here, you see that positive square root of a positive number. It is already telling you that use square root, you need to have a positive number. So square root, this one here. So if I put square root of 4, I'll get a 2, which is right. However, if I put negative 4, you are gonna get num error, because, and it gives you a hint, square root parameter 1, there's only one parameter, so is negative, it should be positive. So the good thing with Google Sheets, it will indicate to you why the error is occurring. So when one of the reasons we get a num error is if you try to do something impossible that's not allowed by function, by Google Sheet, either by limitation or otherwise, then you get the num error. So when you see this, know that there's an issue with the argument, just correct the argument, and then you get your answer right. The other case also where it occurs, if you have a very large number, I power, so I have a large number like that, then I power another large number. You'll find that there's a red line, meaning that there's a problem. When you hover there, numeric value is greater than this. So it is telling us that the highest number that Google Sheet can accommodate value here, 1.7, 10 power 308. This is, so a number greater than this cannot be displayed. When you do that and press enter, you're gonna get the num error. So this is another kind of error that you can get. Either it is impossible to calculate or the number is too large for it to calculate. So the other example I can give you is if you are trying to do the internal rate of return and you're using this rate formula, the number of periods, maybe 300, present value. If I put a positive that, and also a positive that, then I close, you can see I get a num error. Again, When you hover over this, it will give you the rate evaluation. The value rate must include positive and negative numbers. When you have all positives, then when you see that and you correct and make one of them negative, expecting. So in other words, it is failing to get the internal rate of return if all the cash flows are positive. That's what it's saying. If the square root of a negative number, this one can also not be got. That's why it is that. If the number is too large and it has exceeded the limit of the Google Sheet, that one will not be allowed. And this is our last error for today, NA error. Now this occurs mainly if it is looking for a value and trying to return a value in a function, but somehow it does not find that value. In most cases, you get an error. So let's look at an example. So assuming we have John there, and we use our VLOOKUP, we look up John, where we're looking up John in this array, comma, when we find him, what value do we want to return? The value we want to return is in second column, column 1, column 2. I want to return the 340. Then I want an exact match. Then I do like that. Sorry, this should be 2. Then I get 340. So it has been able to find John in this range and it has returned 340. However, if I come here and I put Tom, because Tom is not in this range, it's gonna give me an NA error. So you can see it gives you an NA error. NA in most cases means that when you try to find this value, it is not in the here. That's why it's returning NA. And the good thing again, don't forget there's the if error function. Either you can do like that and you get nothing, or you can tell Google Sheets that if you find an error, give me a message not found. You can do that. So that's when you see this, it tells you not found. So when I do Mary, it is found. When I do Peter, it will not be found. Instead of giving me NA, it is giving me not found. So this option here, you can type what you want to be returned if the value is not found, and then you avoid instances of showing an error. Thank you for watching. I hope this has been helpful. Next time you meet an error, be sure what to do. And if so, subscribe if you have not, like the video, comment, and see you in the next video.